Thank you for listening to Depictions Media Radio. You know, sometimes a serious message can come in a humorous kind of way. Our next guest, Donna Dahl, she has a book out there that references the hare and the tortoise, lessons that you can learn from the tortoise. And it's kind of a humorous thing because most people think, what in the world could I learn from a tortoise? Well, let's consider this, that Donna is a high-powered coach, and she teaches the mindsets to those who are also already executives. And she has methods of teaching us different things that we need to learn in life so that we can find our path, enjoy our path, and live the way we're supposed to live on purpose. So why don't we bring our empowerment coach and book development coach, which we're also going to speak to her a little bit about how to write that book as an expert after you've gone through some of our other empowerment coaching. So why don't we welcome Donna to the show, and we'll ask her a little bit more about what the tortoise actually has to teach us. Why don't we start with how did you discover that you should be empowering people?
That's a very interesting question. I'm never one to want to adopt shoulds in the first place, but I believe that I'm attracted to things that work, things that bring joy to other people, things that make a difference, things that deliver change where change is requested. It's more a magnetism, perhaps, or an invitation that happens. And when I'm invited, when I'm called, I will respond.
That's a good way of putting it. Calm. Yeah. So you, I remember I first met you. You talked about your book, and I got I probably already butchered the title, but it was lessons that the tortoise had for us. And
Well, Aesop was a very smart man, having written a number of fables
mhm,
uh, before the time of Christ, where he was, I think, creating metaphors to help guide people in terms of their way of life, in terms of their way of behaving, in terms of interaction and so on. And he chose animals often to be the primary characters in his stories, so that it maybe made it easier to swallow or easier to understand. And so in the story of the tortoise and the hare, he wanted us to know that the race does not always go to the swift. And so he gave us the example. As I began to study the tortoise and the hare, I began to realize that there were more lessons than just the one. That if we think about the aggravation that the tortoise may have felt as a result of the constant bombardment of in, I'm the fastest in the forest, might have gotten a little aggravating, perhaps to the tortoise, and that aggravation may have caused him to spill out a set of words that he never really meant to say. But once having said them, he was a tortoise of his word, and he would show up to the race. He would give it his all. He would give it his best. The hare also chose to keep his word and show up to the race. Except that a little ways in, the hare looked back and the tortoise was barely crossing the finish line. Well, time for a rest. You know, maybe I didn't get enough sleep last night, or maybe I don't have to exert myself quite so exuberantly to take up so much of my energy, and I can just rest here a while. Except the tortoise kept going, one step after another, plodding along with impressive consistency and deliberate action to move just one tiny little bit closer to the finish line. And so, as we know, the story ends, the tortoise did win. But it reminded me of other races. You know, one of the lessons that I picked up on was it's okay to come first.
mhm.
You know, sometimes we enter a race not necessarily expecting to win, but we win. And then because we've never won before, we don't know how to behave. We don't know how to respond to other people who are applauding us or cheering us, or maybe even booing us because we won. We were not the expected winner. So there are lessons that we learn about being the unlikely winner, and that it is okay to be first.
Yeah. Yeah.
One of the many lessons.
Yeah. You you mentioned Aesop, and there's a string of fables, right? And some of them they have huge lessons, even lessons that we have woven into our own language today. So, in one of my favorite
lessons in the Tortoise and the Hare, of course, was the tortoise showed up. He showed up completely.
Yes.
And you think about how many times in life that we don't show up completely and what happens, right?
Mm-hmm. For certain. So showing up is kind of important. Lessons I learned from the tortoise. Of course, I've got lots of pages marked. It is on Amazon as an ebook. The another one of the lessons that I chose to write about was that multitasking sucks. The Hare chose to multitask. He chose to have two goals within one task. And what happens lots of times is that when we're trying to focus on two separate things, neither one of them gets done, or neither one gets done well, or our attentions are divided between the two, and people notice.
That's a really important one, especially when we're talking to a bunch of entrepreneurs out there and think that, oh, well, I can handle it all, instead of doing one thing well and maybe delegating something to another, right?
Doing one thing well, or dividing things sufficiently well in order that focus may be maintained on this particular task. So I'm reminded of a nursery rhyme long ago that talked about Monday being wash day and Tuesday being something else, and Wednesday and Thursday, every day of the week had a task, a primary focus to complete. And perhaps we can do the same, that Monday is for this and Tuesday is for this. So even if we're delegating, the meetings with those people who are our affiliates or who are people who are fulfilling task management on our behalf, that maybe Tuesday is the day for those meetings. And so we focus on that day and not try to do a whole bunch of things at once. We may feel less stressed, a little more relaxed, as a result of choosing different ways to manage our time.
Yeah. And I can see that being important with the other group of people. Well, it's the same group of people, but you're coaching them to do something else with your author coaching also. It's like, if you're going to write and don't do anything else versus.
Raise a really good point, Michael, because writing is writing. It's really difficult to write and talk on the phone at the same time. Unless, of course, your telephone conversation is part of your writing assignment. But writing requires a commitment to spending time with oneself, spending time with our muse, or spending time with the voice inside our head that helps us move the story along. Writing is a very private and personal experience, and it has different tools that work for different individuals, because some will write by hand, as they were taught to do. Others will write with the keyboard, as they were taught to do. Varies from individual to individual. And I like to work with people to help them to capitalize on the way in which the writing flows the easiest for them.
Well, it's funny you should say that, because I have what seems to most people a strange way of writing things, because I take pen to paper and then I read I read what I've written into a I can't think of it because dictation is it's an old term. That's not right anymore.
Voice to text.
Yeah, transcriber. That's what I was looking for, right? So and then I sit and edit the transcription after, and people are like, "Well, why do you take all those steps?" And it's my process to overcome to enhance my abilities and to overcome some of my disabilities.
Everyone will have their own mix of strategies that supports them. You have a process that enables you to visit what you're writing at least 2 times, if not more.
Mm-hmm.
And that revisit is important. I think there's very few times when a conscientious writer accepts the first draft as being the final picture, whatever that form is.
I was going to say, does that ever happen?
I'm not sure. And there are so many different ways in which to self-edit so that we become better at examining what we've written with a critical eye.
Yeah, exactly, and that's basically my disability is I have dyslexia, so the critical eye doesn't fully take shape for another couple days after I've written it.
I can well understand. You're operating to produce a physical product that has a visual orientation.
Mm-hmm.
And so it may be of value to consider the possibility of adding another sensory organ that you have to assist you with your editing, and that being reading what you've written out loud.
Mm-hmm. Right.
When you hear it, you would know if the words are in the right order,
right,
or if you've written it clearly enough.
Right. That would be exactly it. And the reason I bring that up is because we all should have some sort of process that we use so that we're delivering to our readers something of quality, right?
Yes, and there are pitfalls and snags with whatever system we use. So it's good to practice more than one, because the second one might catch the glitches that the first one didn't.
That's an important point. So, let me ask you this: as far as because anyone who would write a book analyzing an Aesop fable must be also an avid reader.
That's an interesting assumption to make. I read in spits and spurts. I read sporadically. I read 5 books at once, and often I start with the last page of the book, and then go to the first page of the book. Readers, I want to know where the author is carrying me, and whether that has a benefit for me. So I'm a very different kind of reader. Good fiction will hold my attention from beginning to end when the character development is strong. But I also bring I have a master's degree in educational psychology, and I bring all of that to the table in terms of when I'm doing editing, for instance. dealing with character development, consistencies of personality throughout the book, and does the story have a beginning, a middle, and an end? Can we feel what the character is feeling? Can we get inside the story and allow it to transport us to a different space, to a different time, maybe through the eyes or the ears of some other person? I enjoy good nonfiction. There have been some excellent books written in the realm of nonfiction. I mean, we can go back as far as Think and Grow Rich, and become as current as some of the Malcolm Gladwell books. I'm a huge fan of Malcolm Gladwell, and his books are full of the shorter kind of story, but all the stories within a book follow a thesis that is it causes me to think. In the book Blink, when he writes about someone's intuition about a set of sculptures that didn't feel like they were real. They had all the pieces that they needed in order to create a sense for the viewer that this was authentic, but yet someone's gut said, this isn't real. So do we have a way in which we measure the authenticity, the veracity of our gut? Do we allow our gut to play a role in making evaluations, in making decisions? It's fascinating writing.
And that's always a good question to be asked, especially if it's something that's life changing, or or are you pushing away because your gut's just simply not happy, or is it like the fear that, oh, everything's going to change, but it's going to change for the better? How do you balance that out? Specifically, how do you balance that sort of thing?
How do I balance it?
Yes.
I have a system that is very interesting. In fact, one of my clients recently, that I encountered recently at a networking event, said, I remember that conversation that we had where you told me about sticky and smooth. My ears perked up. See, when I'm working on a project, it will probably either be smooth or sticky. It might depend on the project. It might depend on the day of the week. So if it's sticky, why is it sticky? Is it sticky because this is the wrong time? Is it sticky because this is the wrong place? Is it sticky because this is not my thing? It belongs to somebody else. What's making it not go smooth? And if it's smooth, well, We can say, well, that's going to just get me closer to the end sooner. However, sometimes sticky is in place because what's needed is a challenge. I can do this. If we think about Thomas Edison, as Napoleon Hill wrote about him, that it was something like 10,000 efforts, 10,000 times that he tried to make a light bulb before he finally got one that worked. So sticky can invoke commitment, even when commitment might be wrong, but maybe it's the challenge we're supposed to have, and so we're supposed to accept it and go on with it. Smooth, on the other hand, may be that maybe that's a gift that finally, after having had to place effort in so many things, smooth is a gift, and it's okay to reach the end with ease, with comfort. So, evaluating things as to whether they are sticky or smooth, give invitation for pause. Let's think about this before we take the next step.
How do you know when that pause is actually necessary?
I think it's a feeling. I think it's a feeling at a gut level, partly, and I think that with me, it's also become part of what I naturally do.
So you also obviously, for you to have degrees in psychology and things like that, you use the mind a lot, but you also use your intuition a lot also.
Yes. I would have to say yes.
Yeah. Pretty interesting. So why don't you tell us a little bit about the process of how you empower people and get them started on their path so that they can do what they're supposed to do in life?
That's a great question, Michael. In fact, it's one that my husband and I were talking about earlier today. The empowerment is something that is unique and individual to the person that I'm working with. There are no cookie cutters to empowerment. What empowers you and how you feel about it is unique to you. Your beginning space of feeling empowered or being empowered is unique to you and you alone. And so as a result, while we can go to yoga classes and learn how to breathe, learn how to bring energy into our lives, empowerment starts with the belief that I can make change, and that change is something that will move me forward, to take me where I think that my path is supposed to take me, to where I think that I belong, to where I can be the servant leader I intend to be, that I want to be, that I'm meant to be. So my empowerment, if I can empower myself, then I can model where that might live in your body, how that might live in your mind. How strongly do you believe in yourself that there is something better waiting for you? And are you ready to explore that and take the first step?
Oh, very good question for a person to ask. The first step is always the hardest one, though, isn't it?
What's the old saying? It depends. I read a statement recently that said a boat that's anchored cannot sail.
Yeah. Yes. I'm expecting there to be a trick answer inside of this one.
If you're anchored in space, in place,
Mm-hmm.
you have two choices: to stay in place or move. If you are satisfied with staying in place, fine. We can have a conversation about how that makes you feel, how that's benefiting you, that it feels right, it's comfortable, it aligns with the person I believe I am and the way that others receive me. And that's important. That's important. I would never take on the idea that everybody needs to change. No. But I think that there are many of us who are ready, willing, and able to make at least one minor change about ourselves, whether it's a change in our behavior, or whether it's a change in how we speak, or whether it's a change in how we relate to one other significant person in our life, just tweaking something. Who is it? James Clear that said, if we change something, if we change 1% of us every single day for 365 days, that amounts to nearly a 40% change at the end of 1 year.
Probably quite accurate. I'm not going to sit here and do the math on that one, but yeah, it's probably quite accurate, right? You know.
Yes. And so to change for change's sake, no. Change should have a target. Change should have a benefit.
Right. I think there should be some sort of goal in place, or a reason for why you want to change, right?
Yes, a positive outcome that you will experience: fulfillment, joy, satisfaction, happiness, love, friendship, some positive benefit from the change. Sometimes people will choose the change to be in the form of a diet, and sometimes people will choose the change in forms of a behavior. Sometimes people will choose a change in the form of learning. There are no two changes that are the same, and even if you might choose the same change as somebody else, you probably are doing it for a different reason.
that all makes sense. We all have our own reasons and our own purpose.
Yes. And I mean, there are so many these days that are writing about your why. Your why has to be really big and really strong and has to get you up off your chair and get you going. I'm not sure of that. I'm not sure how big your why needs to be in order to stimulate you or motivate you or energize you to take the first step.
Right. Well, in order to get you to take the first step, it may not necessarily have to be all that big, but in comparison to some I've known to have turned it into a life vocation, wouldn't it have to be fairly big for something like that?
Commitment is an interesting thing. Like, what was the saying? In for a penny, in for a pound?
Yeah.
Some people have greater levels of commitment than others. Is it because of their why? I don't know. And I wouldn't dare to guess. It might be.
Yeah. I can see as a coach that I wouldn't want to guess it for someone else. But if you're the individual sitting there, then it might be an important question for you to answer for yourself, wouldn't it?
For me to answer for myself, yes.
Yeah.
Yes, because my level of commitment will say, okay, I can commit 1 hour a day to this. Or another level of commitment might be, I'll commit every morning for 5 days a week for the next 3 months to doing this. So level of commitment could be in terms of time allocated. If we've never tested our limits for commitment, we might not know what the boundaries of that are. Everybody's different.
Yeah. Yeah, that makes sense. How will we test our level of commitment?
Well, if I said, Michael, what I want you to do right now is get down on the floor and do push-ups. And you do 2. And I say, come on, Michael, just 1 more. And you go, no, don't make me do another one. Come on, you can do 1 more. And maybe you do 1 more, and maybe you don't. But yeah. You find out where the boundary is to what you could do today, which might be different from your boundary tomorrow.
That makes sense.
And tomorrow you may decide that doing those 2 push-ups a day put you out of commission for 2 days because you haven't done push-ups for 10 years and now you're hurting. And so push-ups are off the table. But another person might say, I did 2. If I could do another 2 today, I wonder how many days it will take me to get to 3.
Mm-hmm.
Baby steps. Baby steps.
Each step we take becomes important, and
Yes. Yes. Because in the final analysis, we're getting to know ourselves through working with a coach, through having interesting conversations
Mhm.
that create self-reflection, contemplation, to help make choices that support you as you're going forward.
You really know how to make a person think.
If you read some of the testimonials that are up on my website, that's what people say all the time. In the afterword, in lessons I learned from the tortoise, I wrote, challengers inspire us to take giant steps long before we might ever become giants. And I am always on a mission, looking for opportunities to be your challenger.
That is quite the amazing thing to be for people, though. You know, just sitting here, the times that we talked, you're always like, you awaken my brain a little bit more. So it's a lot of fun that way.
My pleasure.
Mm-hmm.
My sincere pleasure. When I can help create a space that is comfortable and safe and allows you to explore in regions that you have that are lying dormant but want to come to the surface, that brings me joy.
Right, we're starting to run out of time, and there's one last question I want to ask you. What is the biggest challenge and goal for Donna?
The biggest challenge for now, right now, for me, not easy to park under one umbrella.
Oh.
Not easy. I've been challenged to write a book of fiction, and that has been an interesting take on an area that I began to write in when I wrote Empowering the Leader Within You, where I took a fictional character who comes to Canada to take a homestead in 1899, and I do a matching activity through the book where I show you what Albert had to contend with when he first came as a homesteader and what it takes to be a successful entrepreneur in the 21st century, still having to practice the same kinds of things for personal empowerment. And so my challenge is to empower myself to write this work of fiction. I also am looking for more opportunities to address audiences or work with teams on the subject of empowerment and alignment with commitment, with common goals, so that I can be of more service than I am currently now as a servant leader. And I look forward to being people inviting me to be interviewed to have that position with them.
That's that would be a fun position too. Challenging, fun. Although for me, challenges usually are fun. I try to add some fun to them at times. So, what are the best ways to get a hold of you?
If you make an appointment at calendly.com/Donna Dahl, and I'll spell my name, it's DONNADAHL. That will start us off on having a conversation. That's calendly.com/Donna Dahl. If not, you'll find me on LinkedIn as Donna Dahl as well.
Well, thank you for joining us today, and thank you everybody for listening. Donna is a challenging person and a lot of fun. I always enjoy talking to you. Thank you, Donna.
You're very welcome. Thank you for having me.
Help us to And I looked up at that shooting star, and then I wondered who you are. I don't know your name, so I wish upon that shooting star, wondering if you feel the same. Is this destiny, or is it meant to be? Take me like a little child in your arms. We can drift away into another
This show has been produced by Depictions Media. Please contact us at depictions.media for more information.